How is everybody doing today? And in this video, we are going to talk about our first rerun for version 1.6, which realistically, I didn't know which order it was in first, so I had to double check. But yes, we are going to see Bernice here before we end up seeing Julian. Now, this honestly puts us in a really awkward spot for people that want to delve into the attack meta with, of course, Ambi and also Trigger, but also looking at the Anomaly meta as well, because Burnice is by far one of the key players in it just because of what she's able to do. So of course, we need to talk about Burnice, specifically what she adds to your account for the most part, and then talk about her related characters that you might want to have her for when it comes to her best team comps. Because realistically, Burnice is a weird character to talk about when it comes to rerun value. Same thing goes for Julian. I think they're both going to be in a weird spot where, of course, not the best, but they're also not the worst. They're like in the middle where they're in a good spot, and that's for a lot of the limited characters in the game. Going all the way back from Ellen, although Ellen, yes, is a little bit outdated compared to some of the characters out right now when you compare them to Miyabi, when you compare them to Evelyn, and same thing goes for Ambi in them. So yeah, characters like Ellen a little bit are going to be in the lower form of rerun value, but when it comes to looking at someone like Bernice, this character is in the fine line between being really good and also being average realistically. And there's going to be two different situations where you're either going to want her specifically, or if you might want her on her account. Looking at Bernice, I realistically think, because of course her kit, if we need a fresh reminder of what she does, she gives off-field burn for the most part. She gives off-field anomaly buildup, off-field burn, which is going to help you, especially with characters that are going to want a lot of field time, just like characters like Jane. And this is probably one of the first conditions that you would want to look for if you want to pull for Bernice, is that if you are a connoisseur, if you are a player who loves Jane Doe, this will be one of your best characters to have. When it comes to having the anomaly being built up as Bernice is off field, while Jane is spending as much time as humanly possible being on field. And this because of course Jane is able to increase her passion meter whenever she dodges, whenever she parries, whenever she does her chain attack, whenever she does her ultimate. There's just so many different avenues that allow Jane to get her passion bar back that you want to be on the field as much as possible. And looking at a character like Bernice, this is definitely going to be the #1 character that you want to have on your account if you love Jane as much as the #1 Jane fan for the most part. When looking at Bernice in the general standpoint of value on your account, let's say you're not too keen on Jane, let's say you might like Jane but you're not, the diehard fan, you don't want to main her or anything like that, Bernice is I guess you could say a fits-all piece of the puzzle when it comes to a lot of the anomaly teams in the game, because what she provides is so valuable as off-field anomaly damage or off-field anomaly buildup. Now, of course, with the aftershock meta coming with Ambi, Trigger, and also Pokra, this can change and skew Bernice's value quite a bit. Especially with future characters like Vivian, who is going to be a anomaly ether character, potentially, hopefully not, but potentially having the aftershocks as well, which would kind of be in the same slot as Bernice. Now, is she going to have as much anomaly buildup? That is yet to be seen for the most part. We have zero idea, and we realistically won't be at a point where we would see what Vivian could do and where Bernice is going to have a rerun, because it is going to be in the first patch. Looking at Julian, then we have the knowledge for that, which we could talk about when that comes. But sadly for Bernice, this is going to be a are you going to get her or not type of situation. You don't really have a lot of knowledge to build up on. So realistically, looking at Bernice, like I said, she is a universal character that it can be put on any anomaly team. Realistically, she can work well on any team that wants a character to have more field time than being in the backline, because Bernice is permanently benched for the most part, as long as you keep the fire buff or fire debuff on them that keeps them burning and keeps them taking those ticks of damage, those ticks of anomaly buildup that make her so good when she's off field. So having characters like, of course, Yanagi, having characters like Miyabi, characters like Jane, these are some absolutely amazing characters that you could put together with Bernice that allow you to do a bunch of damage. And even more so, you can also pair Bernice up with other characters like someone like Soldier 11 or any of the other fire characters, because of the disc set that allows you to get more crit, if I'm not wrong, if they are burning, and Bernice kind of excels at that in the highest form you can possibly make. There's even use cases for someone like Haramasa potentially, where you really want a lot of reactions coming out of the enemy to be able to spam those arrows that come out the ground. There are a lot of situations where she can be used on something that's not Anomaly, but Anomaly is of course her home and her main team that she wants to be on. As I said before, Bernice is in a really weird spot just because we don't know what Vivian's capable of. Vivian's going to be Ether. There's not many Ether characters in the game, so this kind of helps with the lack of overlap between them. And there can always be another Fire Anomaly character. Same thing goes with another Anomaly Ether unit, but Ether is so sparingly rare when talking about Zenless in the cast of characters that it's a little bit less hard for that to happen than someone like Burnice. So we realistically have no way of knowing if Vivian's gonna replace an off-field Anomaly character like Burnice. But realistically, if you want to pull Bernice on her rerun, either you really like Jane, like I mean you really love Jane, this is your favorite character without a doubt, or you just want a basically fits all character for a bunch of different teams. She will kind of overall round out your roster when it comes to having a third member or a second member on a team, and then slap on the main damage dealer, slap on the main character is going to be on the field, and you know that could be the best thing for you realistically. The only situation where I wouldn't really pull Bernice is if you're really not into Anomaly. I know that's a little bit of a weird thing to say, but if you don't like Anomaly for the most part, if you're like a pure attack character specialist, like you only like Juyin, you only like Ellen, these are characters that necessarily don't need Bernice for the most part when it comes to their team. And there could be a lot of other situations as well, but with how strong Anomaly is as a role, that probably won't be a situation that most people will encounter. So realistically, Burnice has a lot of value, but it's not, of course, at the height of Miyabi, but it's also not at the value of Ellen for the most part. It's just that she's in the middle. It's hard to say realistically. Vivian is in a really weird spot and puts Burnice in an awkward position because of their kind of similar playstyle potentially. We don't know if Vivian's going to have some type of off-field potential, but with the aftershock meta that we currently have right now, allowing many characters to be off-field, who's to say that these new characters like Hugo, like what's it called, Vivian, are not gonna have them, you know? So it really is a really weird spot when it comes to all the new things coming with 1.7 and 1.6 and seeing what Bernice has, because previously Bernice just had so much value because she was the only character who was allowed to do off-field potential, plus having an ult that allows you to switch another character. That's also something that's very, very strong that Bernice has. But now that we're giving it to more characters, like giving it to Trigger and giving it to Ambi and giving it to Polka and potentially giving it to Hugo and maybe even Vivian, this kind of waters down Bernice's value because now more characters are getting that off-field potential that not many other characters were able to do for the most part. So this does put her in a really weird spot, but she's still a good character without a doubt, and I don't see her realistically losing value as rapidly when you consider what she's able to do. Of course, allowing you to have Fire Anomaly being put onto an enemy without you having to have Bernice on the field. This is going to stay true to being a nice valued character as long as there's not another Fire Anomaly character that does the exact same thing. That's the only time Bernice will finally lose value, but for a quick moment and for a long time, I'm assuming Bernice will stay true. She'll be fine where she's at in terms of her value as an Anomaly unit, as an off-field support, which realistically, you have to have a lot of conditions lined up for Bernice to lose her value in that spot. So if you are into Anomaly, if you want to if you want a general good character for Anomaly, Bernice is a pretty good character to pick up on a rerun. Realistically, a lot of Anomaly teams, when it comes to the best of the best, they are going to consist of like spamming Miyabi and Yanagi and then having some other character, maybe even Vivian in the future. But Jane mains specifically love Bernice. Bernice is just a really good overall piece of the puzzle when it comes to Anomaly teams, period. Just because she puts on her value onto the enemy, leaves. Now you just have the rest of the team to worry about, which can help out quite a bit realistically when it comes to damage and ramping that up with the other damage dealers on the team. So other than that, that's pretty much going to be it when it comes to talking about Bernice. I realistically think she's a really good value character. Only problem is, like I said, it's not at the very top, but also not at the very bottom. Just like perfectly in the middle. But with Vivian's inclusion, we have no idea where she's going to be at. So I do think she's worth picking up for a rerun. Of course, we will talk about Juyin in a future video, and I do want to cover more Ambi stuff. I want to cover more Polka stuff because I think those characters are really, really fun, and I do think that specifically Polka is insanely strong. We do need to talk about her a little bit more, but other than that, that's gonna be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. See y'all in the next one, and peace.